What's up guys, welcome back. Today we've got something a little bit different. I'm going to be covering 25 MOBA terms and phrases and what they mean. Covering some of the more basic stuff, but also going into some more complex lingo for higher level play. So let's get into it. ADC stands for Attack Damage Carry, a term that's been translated from other MOBAs like League of Legends, where in League it simply means the carry that uses AD, the stat, to do most of the damage, as opposed to ability power or AP users. In Smite though, there is no AD and AP, so it basically just refers to the carry that's in dual lanes alongside the support. Could be a hunter, it could be a magical carry like Sol or Freya, or even some other gods like Kali and Bakasura can sometimes be found in the ADC role as well. Some people also just use the term simply to refer to hunters in general, calling gods like Freya magical ADCs, but the term itself is specifically meant for the carry that resides in dual lane. Gank or ganking. Ganking essentially refers to another player going into someone's lane in an attempt to kill or force out the direct lane opponent. Usually this is the jungler that does the most ganking as they're constantly roaming, but any character really in the game can perform a gank that's going to be rotating around. Poke or poking. Poking is basically throwing out some small amount of damage, usually at a decent range, to try and get your opponent to low HP to either force them back to base or look for a kill. Gods like Thoth and Osiris have really strong poke with low cooldowns and good range that are fairly easy to hit. Farm or farming. Farming is basically getting XP and gold for yourself or for your team. From any source in the game, really. It could be killing waves of minions in your lane, or farming jungle camps, getting objectives. This term also is sometimes used in the context of kills, though. If you're getting, like, repeated kills on the same enemy, maybe your direct lane opponent, you can sometimes be said that you're farming the enemy for kills, or vice versa, you might be getting farmed for kills by the enemy laner. JUKIng. JUKIng is essentially dodging, just moving around quickly and or unpredictably to try and avoid enemy abilities or basic attacks to take less damage overall. Snowballing. This term is very aptly named. It's basically getting bigger and bigger and harder to stop and faster as the game goes on. Like a snowball picking up more snow as it rolls down a hill. This can happen from repeatedly killing someone, getting a lot of objectives, or playing just farming better than the enemy team. If someone's snowballing, you generally want to attempt to stop them as quick as you can so they don't become much of a problem. The term's usually associated with early game gods like Thanatos that can really snowball off of a lot of kills, but it can also be that a late game god is snowballing in the early game, like snowballing towards their late game quicker, which is also a bad thing. Split push or split pushing. Split pushing is someone splits from a team and goes to push on their own. Get it? This is the most common with gods that can push towers down quickly, such as ADCs and some assassins. This is a good way of getting some map pressure and goal for your team by taking towers if the enemy don't respond to your split push. But it will also put your team at a 4v5 disadvantage potentially, so if they have to take a fight while you're split pushing, it could be bad for your team. Backdooring. This is kind of similar to split pushing, but a bit different. It usually refers to being quite sneaky and trying to get around to the enemy team and get their Titan or Phoenix or something like that, and end the game before they realise what's going on. It's like going through a back door instead of rushing straight through the front head-on trying to kill the Titan. Backdoor Protections. If you understand what backdooring is and you get that concept, then it's not hard to understand what backdoor protections means. They're literally just protections that protect against backdooring. They apply to structures like towers and phoenixes, and I believe the Titan also gets backdoor protections. And it essentially just boosts their protections, but if minions are in range of that structure, it will remove the backdoor protection to make the structure easier to take, so it essentially prevents you just rushing things down without your minions and trying to be sneaky like that, hence it protects the enemy team from you backdooring. Counter warding and ward wars. These terms generally refer to sentry wards. Counter warding is basically using sentry wards to destroy enemy wards, and ward wars is usually when you kind of go back and forth between both teams, destroying each other's sentry wards over and over to try and get vision over an objective, such as Fire Giant. Countering and counter-picking. This refers to usually when you choose to do something that's specifically good against an enemy god or strategy or team comp. For example, Odin is a good counterpick to Hell because he has built-in healing reduction in his kit and stops Hell escaping. Also, Midgardia Mail is a good counter item to basic attack focused gods or teams. Boxing. This term is also generally taken from other MOBAs, but it usually refers to trading with an enemy god one-on-one. This is most common in the two side lanes with the ADC and solo laner, as they're often 1v1 for a lot of the game, so they end up trading and boxing with a lane opponent. But as I've mentioned, as I've been explaining this also is sometimes referred to as trading, like because you trade blows with the enemy, but trading and boxing are basically interchangeable with each other. Lane freezing. This tactic is also taken from other MOBAs, and it's a bit less common in Smite than in things like League and Dota, but it does still happen a fair bit, and this is basically just the opposite of pushing a lane to a tower. Like, you deliberately don't attack minions, so that lane won't push towards the enemy. This can be used to deny enemies farm, as if you just leave the minion waves to die, the enemy will be out of range to get XP from the minions, but you'll be within range, so you get the farm and they don't. This can be used aggressively in the way I just mentioned, or it can also be used defensively to stop your minions pushing up too far so you can get your farm safely without having to run halfway up your lane and, potentially risking dying just to get a wave of minions. or OOM. This is an acronym that stands for out of mana. And you'll often hear people saying, I'm which usually means they don't want to fight and they might have to back to base to get their mana back. Zoning or zone control is basically denying enemies the option to move freely through certain areas of the map. This can be by throwing abilities out, such as Appalachia's ultimate or Steel's crush, or simply being stood in a certain area to scare enemies off from walking near you. Like, warriors are quite good at this in some Guardians, where they can just kind of stand up at the front and just kind of block people from accessing certain paths because they might end up getting CC chained to death or something like that. This is also useful on like Guardians or Warriors if you're trying to zone people off of a Gold Fury so that your team can secure it without it getting stolen. DR, or diminishing returns, is essentially a way of stopping CC chains from being too long. Basically, when you're hit by a CC, you gain a stack of DR, which lasts a set amount of time and will reduce the durations of any further CCs that hit you by 1/3. If you get hit by a second CC while that stack of DR is still active, you'll gain a second stack of DR, meaning that further CC is reduced by 2/3 of the duration. So a 2-second stun if you had 2 DR stacks would only last 0.66 seconds. Knockups, however, aren't affected at all by DR and always last the full duration. That's why they're often considered one of the most powerful CCs in the game, because they can't be cleansed and they can't be DR'd. Peel or peeling. This term is named in the ways because you kind of, you peel someone away or peel someone off if they're stuck to you. So if an enemy assassin is like diving you as a mage and they're just sticking to you, you might need a guardian to peel that god off of you and take the enemy away from you and keep you alive by CCing them or drawing their attention away from you. Leaching. Leaching generally refers to people sharing XP with teammates without actually contributing to clearing, like the lane or the camp. So a jungler might just turn up in your lane for a bit and wait for you to clear wave to get extra XP. This is okay to do if they're like behind a bit, especially as a jungler don't get much free farm these days, like as much as laners do anyway, so you can often just turn up in the lane to get a little bit of extra farm. But your teammates might get a bit mad at you doing this and tell you to fuck off your lane because like you are leeching farm off of them. Dot and AoE. I put these two together because they're both just short acronyms relating to abilities and how they work. Dot stands for damage over time and just refers to abilities that do the damage over multiple ticks or instances of damage. Examples being Anubis' Grasping Hands and Sylvanas' Wisps. And AoE just stands for area of effect, and this is basically just applies to any ability that can hit more than a single target. Proc. Proc essentially means activating something, so to proc Soul Reaver would be like when you fire a mage ability and it activates, that will be procking Soul Reaver. Pretty simple concept. Leashing. Not to be confused with leeching from before, leashing is usually done when referring to objectives like towers, Gold Fury, Fire Giant, and Titan. If you're tanking these objectives for your team but you need to step out of range, maybe you're too low or you need to step out to go zone, the aggro of the tower or objective will leash to a teammate. So like if you're too low, you'll say, I'm too low, I need to leash Fire Giant to you. So you will drop out of range and it will leash to another teammate that can tank it. Building stacks or stacking. This is a pretty simple one. It just refers to building stacks like Warlock, Sash, Transcendence, that sort of stuff. And it just implies that you need last hits on the minions to stack up your item. But it is sometimes used in other ways, like if people are asking you to leave minions for them, like if a Song Queen needs to stack up his passive or something like that, it can be used that way as well. Vision. Vision is pretty self-explanatory. It's just any area that's revealed on your minimap. This could be by wards, minions, or teammates being near that area that give you vision of it, allowing you to see enemy minions, gods, god movements, and wards on the minimap, though wards only show up if they're under the vision of a sentry ward. Proxy or proxy farming. Proxy farming refers to killing a minion wave, usually behind a tower, before it can push up and meet your own minion wave. This is usually done in lane if you're ahead and can afford to tank the minions and get out safely. It's best done on solo laners as they're quite tanky enough to get out safely should the enemy respond to it. But it does sometimes happen on ADCs like Izanami, and like if you have an Izanami Sylvanas combo, that's quite a potent way to just proxy the wave really early on. But this is basically done just so your minion wave won't take any damage. Like you tank up the minion wave before it meets yours, so yours can push better because they don't take damage from the enemy wave. And it can also allow you to start a rotation early, like if you go to clear behind the tower, clear out that minion wave. The enemy has to stay in lane to clear your minion wave that's pushing up, but you can go do a rotation or farm something else. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's something a little different to my normal stuff, so let me know if you want more of this or if it was complete trash and I need to kill myself. That's about it. Peace out, nerds.